I'm Felix Levine, and welcome to Unlike Me, where I sit down with fascinating people I have nothing in common with. And we're live. Chloe, thank you so much for taking the time, trekking all the way from the Upper West Side to come here to Brooklyn today.
Of course.
It's a pleasure to sit down with a fellow Francophone, so welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I told you a few seconds ago, is there a little tidbit, a little story, a little something the world doesn't know about you from what's already out there?
I was just thinking about that, and we were talking because we both speak French, and I was just saying that I can actually adapt my French accent very well. I think I can fool a few French people. I am French Canadian, but when I go to France, I just love adapting and kind of blending in, and I can give you a very good French accent from France, and then when I'm back in Montreal and Quebec, I can give you a very good Quebec accent.
So for people that are not familiar, and this
Yes.
is where Parisians get the asshole reputation, is like Parisians like to make fun of Quebecois French.
They do.
So I was trying my best to not start off the first time we meet by being an asshole. But it's funny, but it's interesting too. Like when you say French accent, you mean Parisian accent?
Yes.
As in like turning off the Quebecois accent?
Yeah, okay. Pretty much.
But when you go home, you stay true to your roots, I hope.
I do. I feel like, when I'm around my friends, when I'm like around my family, it just kind of comes out naturally. So, yeah.
Do you have a French passport?
No, I don't. Okay. I only have my true Canadian passport.
So then, but there's a lot of benefits, right, with a Canadian passport in France?
I think so. I mean, I think I would easily be able to get a visa there. Canadians are pretty much liked everywhere, which is a good.
So you are.
Yeah, it's a good reputation to have.
It's a great reputation to have. So you've now been in New York for 10 years.
Yeah.
But before that, you were living in Montreal?
I lived my whole life in Montreal up until I was 19 years old. Okay. And I moved to New York for school. I went to Parsons. It was actually a dream of mine my whole life. When I was 12 years old, I told my mom, I'm going to be a photographer. I was set, and she was like, okay, sweetie, you're probably going to change your mind, but I will support you. And I never did. And then when I was 13, I was like, and I also want to go to Parsons. And she was like, well, okay, we'll see. That's very expensive, And then through high school, I just kept talking about that dream my whole high school year. And I also did an associate's degree in photography. And it was truly a dream to move to New York and to go to Parsons. I had that in mind. I was a planner from very young, and when came the time to apply, I applied to Parsons, and I got in with a scholarship, which was incredible. And then I did the big move to New York.
What was it about photography that you wanted to pursue, or that drew you to it?
I think I just always really wanted to be an artist my whole life. I dabbled into dance, into singing. I was a violinist for a couple of years from 6 to 10 years old. I really just wanted to do as many artistic mediums as possible, and I just loved photography. It was truly what brought me the most joy, and just kind of documenting things and being able to capture beautiful moments. It was truly something that I loved from a very, very young age. And it's funny because obviously, as our world has evolved, many things have evolved into that too. But photography was just always, to me, the most beautiful form of just capturing a moment.
So I think what's also interesting is if I'm thinking about that time period, that's when you went to Parsons, so about 10 years ago, as you said, mm-hmm. was pre what social media is today.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and in a lot of ways, I think that, even from doing my own research and seeing your work, it almost feels like it couldn't have come at a better time, this, combination of photography plus what social media can do.
It's kind of crazy how the world has changed in the last 10 years. Yeah. And also what it has evolved into. I never really thought that I would be doing social media as I am today. To me, I was always going to be a photographer, and that was kind of like the goal that I had. I first thought I would want to be a fashion photographer. That was really, really specifically what I had in mind. And then it evolved into something else, and now it's basically like instead of being behind the camera, now I am totally in front of it, which I had actually kind of struggled with that for a few years, especially when I was starting to be more involved in social media. But I feel like we're always evolving. So to me, it was an interesting kind of change.
Do you still prefer being behind the camera as opposed to in front of it?
You know what? I've really made my peace with it, and I actually really, really like it. I love being able to share what I love and like how I see things. And that's through doing reels, like editing videos, showing it to the world, sharing photos, but also kind of putting me in front and being able to share me through that, if that makes sense. And I think the combination of both is so fun because even when I was young, I was like, modeling could be super fun too. So I feel like all of the things that I loved growing up, I'm kind of doing it today, which is kind of crazy because if I think of myself as like a 14-year-old, and if I were 14 now and I think my 14-year-old self would look at me today, I think she would be very proud.
As a photographer, what do you think separates your work from anybody else's?
I don't know. I feel like I never want to compare myself to other people because I feel like everybody has their own talent and their own way of viewing things, and that's what all makes us super unique. But I do feel that as a photographer, since I have the background and the education, I did study photography for 5 years, I do have those technical aspects that, really have brought me to like another level that maybe I see things a bit more differently. I have an easier like way of editing, or I have these skills that I learned in school actually and through my career that definitely have benefited me today.
When you say technical, because I'm not super well versed in photography, like what does that mean? Is it just the editing of the photos, or what could that look like for a casual viewer?
I think it's like for editing to me and the technicality of things, it's, the lighting,
right,
the editing, of course, like all sorts of softwares, especially if you're, editing your photos or a video. But also like there's so much to be said in lighting for photography and video. And as much as sometimes that's something that we kind of just not really think about when we're the viewer, but when you're creating the piece, it's such an important aspect. And I think that's often what makes an incredible imagery, honestly.
So when you graduated, what did you do immediately? Were you immediately a photographer?
I was pretty much immediately a photographer. I was interning while I was in school and interning in different like places, brands with different people that I really looked up to. And I started doing fashion right as I graduated. And I quickly realized that the fashion industry was just not for me. I was like, actually, like I really...
to have said that, yeah. I hear it's also just a very toxic environment.
Well, that's kind of what it was. I just felt, I was like, I just don't want to be with people who criticize each other and talk about other people behind each other's backs. Like I really did not like that environment. And I somewhat started doing more food photo shoots, and I was in the food space, and I was like immediately like in awe by like that industry, because to me the food space was completely different than the fashion space.
Do you think it's because it wasn't humans? As in like the photography.
I mean, that too. You can't, like, a piece of bread can't really complain that it's like their hair is not like
right,
good, but
But also probably less of the toxicity of like, oh, X person looks like this, or X person sounds like this, or
Right. But also, it wasn't just like the fact that I was shooting just like a still life or, just nothing that spoke, but it was more the people in the industry for me. Like, food is a connector. Food unites people. Food is there to really make us happy, honestly. When you think about it, probably like all of your special moments in your life were...
Oh, every single one of them is about food.
Exactly. Food is like what we love and what really truly connects us. So I was seeing that also in the industry. Like, people were just happy. They wanted to eat. They were just like in a good mood. And I was like, I actually want to be with these people, And that was instant. I was like, okay, I'm going into the food space. And that's really when I decided to become a food photographer.
So when somebody decides to become a food photographer, how does that work? Like, how do you like position yourself as like the it photographer in the food space? Because I don't even know, like, where does one start?
I kind of, in a very random way, like pitched myself to a company that I really loved. And I was like, you know what? I think your social media and photos could be better. I would love to come into the studio and like show you what I got, basically.
It's a food company?
Yeah, it was back in, they still exist, but it was an oat company. So they created like oatmeal, like different types of oats.
This is the big one? Like, is a big company?
It's a company back in Canada.
Okay,
so funny enough, like I reached out to someone in Canada knowing that like for me to reach out to someone in New York right now, and like even though I had been in New York for like 2 years at this point, I was just like, if I look like the girl who's in New York but that's reaching out to like a Canadian brand, I think I will position myself in a way that like they'll want me.
I gotcha.
So then they did want to work with me, and I worked with them for like 6 years, and it was just they actually like being able to show the work that I was doing with them to other brands, working on my website, that kind of like snowballed, and I started working with so many different food brands.
So but what did you find was the most effective way to get jobs? Was it personally reaching out and cold emails?
Yeah, like,
swear to God, cold emails are the best thing ever.
They're the best thing ever, honestly. And I think people are so afraid to pitch themselves and to send cold emails, and just like honestly picking up the phone. Like, I know it's old school, but like people really appreciate when you make the effort.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what got me in.
So did you create like some nice email templates and
Sure did
the whole, I tell people this all the time, like literally it takes like 30 minutes, create 2 or 3 different templates, plug in an X, a Y, and a Z where you're going to change it and personalize it a little bit.
I swear, it really works. That's what I did.
But I think it's a psychological thing about this fear of rejection, of like they don't know, or like, oh, I'm probably not going to get an answer. Like, you don't know.
Absolutely. I think most people like just don't pursue what they really truly want because of fear. Like, fear is the mind killer, always.
Were you fearful of anything when you first? What are you fearful of now as well?
I mean, I look at myself like back when I started this, and I'm like, holy crap, like I was so fearless. I was like, I do not care. I will get rejected, but then someone will pick me, And that's what happened. And I was just kind of like going with the flow, knowing that everything will be okay. And I'll work my ass off, and that's just how it's going to be.
Are you still as fearless today?
I think so, but in a very different way. I feel like back in the day, I had to prove myself a lot. I was young, and I was kind of like, I need to make myself big. And I was tapping in a bit more into like my masculine energy. And now I think I'm a bit more feminine, and I'm a bit more soft in the way that I approach things. And I think it's because I don't feel like I need to prove as much as I did before.
When do you think you went from being more in your masculine to now more in your feminine?
Probably like when I started social media, actually. Like when I started really being more in front of the camera. Funny enough.
Was it a strategic choice? Because also like you and I both knowing the the world of social media, I think that the aesthetic aspect is very important. So you think, was that the primary driver?
I think so. And I think that being in front of the camera more instead of behind kind of just made me want to blossom more into like who I really always kind of wanted to be. I remember when I was a photographer, which I still am now, but when I was solely doing that, I felt like if I wore dresses during photo shoots, or if I didn't have like my uniform on, which was like jeans, Converse, and a white tee literally every day, if I didn't show up to a photo shoot like that, I felt like people would not take me seriously. So I only had black, gray, and white in my wardrobe. I never had any color. And that could not be further from who I am today. I literally wear so many colors and dresses, and I'm just much more vibrant.
Do you do photo shoots still?
I do, much less. But now I also do them for me. Like, I just shot my own cookbook, which was such a pleasure.
When does it come out? I hear there's a pre-order available.
There is. My book is on pre-order. It's called The Artful Way to Plant-Based Cooking.
Okay.
It's coming out September 24th. Very exciting.
And so and you've already come out with a cookbook?
So yes, I have actually.
This will be your second?
It's my second.
Okay.
I came out with my first cookbook in 2017.
Oh, wow.
So a while ago, but it was only in French. So only available.
Works for me.
Perfect for you, honestly.
And so that one was called?
Seasons, but in French.
Focused around?
Same thing. I've been vegan, plant-based for 10 years. So
wow. Before it became
before it became
cool.
Yeah, exactly. Where I couldn't find any vegan cheese anywhere and I was struggling.
Vegan cheese is tricky too as a francophone. Because, if we're snobby in general, just wait till it comes to our cheeses and our breads and our pastries and all of that. So vegan cheeses, where do you find them? Are they more mainstream now?
They are way more mainstream. And now, truly, the vegan cheeses are, insane. Whenever I host, which I do a lot, because I love to entertain, I love to host, you'll have to come over.
For sure.
I'll serve you the best vegan cheese. I swear I fool everybody. Even though, they know I'm vegan, but, they're like, whoa, I need to buy this. It's amazing. Every time.
So, wait, what was the decision to first become vegan? 2014, I feel like people didn't even know what that word was.
No, absolutely. It was still kind of vegan, equaled you're hippie granola,
Yeah.
Which I think still somehow
still does have that rep a little bit.
It's a little bit, which is why I feel like I want to bring this more of this elegance to vegan cooking, which is kind of what I'm trying to bring out into the world. But back in 2014. It was still you would not find one vegan option at a restaurant. It was barely any vegan restaurants in New York. And it was kind of hard, but I really just wanted to, first of all, I never liked meat. I just was not growing up that much of a big foodie. My parents would be like, okay, you have to eat 3 bites of everything. And I would be like, ugh, because we ate meat or we ate some things that just were not satisfying to me. But then when I moved to New York, I felt like I was able finally to explore cooking and explore what I actually wanted to eat. And I just didn't want to kind of be part of that, to eating animals, basically.
So how much easier is it to have an entire cookbook of vegan recipes? Is it a hard task to put together, or is it, other than actually putting together a book, which I'm sure is
the fact of putting a book together is obviously a very hard task, but to me vegan cooking is I don't know anything else, basically. I've never cooked meat in my life. Never.
If I gave you a steak to cook, you'd have no idea how to do it?
I would.
Well, yeah, I'm sure you would.
Yeah, but it's not I I'm sure like I somehow cooked it or with my parents when I was like
Right.
in my teens, but like when I was living by myself, never did I ever like buy meat or buy any fish or yeah. The hardest thing for me was maybe lobster for some reason. That was like the one thing. Like I love a good lobster roll and that you can't replicate.
Will you? This might sound like an extremely stupid question.
No.
When it comes to fish, what's the situation with vegans and fish?
Fish is an animal. So no.
Okay.
But that's why it's like the one thing that like if you were to ask me like what do you miss? I'll be like if I go to Maine, you know, and I see people eating
Those
a lobster
rolls are
rolls.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
You haven't had one in 10 years?
Yeah. No. I haven't had one in 10 years.
Like, do you think you would ever dabble and try it again?
No, I don't think so. I'm just going to wait for the fake thing to come along.
Oh, like the fake lobster?
Yeah.
Oof.
I know. It probably won't. But honestly, I feel like I'm so good at doing like, I have a really, really good like vegan ceviche that I love. That's like,
How's that work?
It's with like heart of palms and like a bunch of different vegetables. And I do like seaweed. So it has kind of this like, you know, more of a fishy flavor. And I just dabble with like natural products and make things vegan.
So wait, so how many recipes are in this new book?
About like 85, 86.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so you come up with every single one of them?
Yeah.
Or you came up. Do you... What are there specific ingredients and vegetables that you target predominantly?
I do not have a favorite. I love every vegetable. I'm like a big, actually, you know what? There's something that comes back a lot in the book and that I love to eat is like puff pastry. I love making some like tarts. Like I just find that like the puff pastry, like you can do it like sweet, you can do it salty. I have one which is like asparagus and peas. I love that. It's just like so versatile.
When you go, this also might be another dumb question. When you go to a pâtisserie in France, those most of the like croissants and all that is tricky.
Yeah, it is so tricky. It's funny because I'm gonna say something that's gonna annoy some people, but it's okay. So my one vice, okay, is croissant.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
welcome to the club.
Yeah, you've seen them. You've seen them on my feed. Like the one thing that is my vice that I will eat still, and that's the one thing is a croissant. Like from time to time, like a regular croissant.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll like if I can find a vegan croissant, I'll take the vegan
But they
one.
definitely don't taste as good.
But you know what? It's okay. I think that I've been vegan for 10 years. I'm doing a lot. I'm doing a good job, you know?
I mean, if that's the only thing, I think you're doing an excellent job.
Yeah, and you know what? That's why it's like I feel like there's always a debate between vegan, plant-based, and I feel like there's a lot of like politics in the vegan community, and when you're not fully good or you're an imperfect vegan, as I'd like to call myself, you kind of get like judged, you know. But that's why I kind of switched into saying plant-based, because I feel like I just eat fully plant-based.
Wait, yeah, so what's the difference between plant-based and vegan?
Well, technically, vegan is a lifestyle. So if you are vegan, you don't, like, all your makeup is vegan.
Oh,
All
that's
your
complicated, isn't
yes, it's very complicated because a lot of times, like, you don't really know. Like, your car needs to be like vegan leather, or like it can be leather.
I mean, don't you think that's like pushing it a little bit?
I personally, like, I mean, I wish like our world would be vegan, but it's practically impossible because
For sure.
So it's hard when like vegans judge other vegans, because I think we're all just doing our best.
What I also admire about you is, I think from a business level, you've done, at least it seems from the outside looking in, an excellent job at really like positioning yourself as almost like a bigger fish in a small pond, if that makes sense. Like, and it's kind of feels like it's a pattern over your still young career of like, you know, when you first started kind of positioning yourself only into the food, where fashion's obviously bigger, and then kind of like the food photographer, and now more of like the vegan, plant-based recipes, photography, all of that. Is that an active choice? And do you feel like, I mean, obviously I'm sure there's other players, but where do you feel like you are within that world? And on a business level, how has that fared for you?
I feel like for me, being in that space just feels very natural because that's my lifestyle. That's who I am, basically. But also, what I really wanted to bring to the table was, and which I think there's not as much of, is more of this elegance in plant-based foods and vegan foods. I think that, you know, as we were saying, like, veganism, plant-based kind of still feels like a bit hippie and granola, even though it isn't, because there's so many amazing products out there. But I think it still has maybe that connotation for a few people. But for me, I think that there was space in there. I feel like there's always space for everybody. You know, I hear like, oh, the market is so saturated. Like there's so many people, so many influencers, so many, like, of course, there's so many of like everybody, you know?
I say the same thing. I'm like,
there's so many podcasts out there.
I say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, I guess technically, but like there's also a lot of TV shows. Like what, we're going to stop like making TV shows, podcasts, music, like photos, like.
Absolutely.
Just got to level up. Do you find that in New York City, the restaurant scene is inclusive of this to the standard that you would hope for?
I honestly think there's not enough vegan options.
What are the best restaurants that are vegan?
I mean, ABCV is my favorite. Beyond.
ABCV?
Yeah. Chef Neil Harden is incredible. He knows exactly what he's doing. He works with Jean-Georges, who's, you know, Jean-Georges. Yeah, he's amazing. And ABCV is definitely the best vegan restaurant in New York City, to me, at least. But I feel like there's so many amazing ones. Like, I mean, 11 Madison Park is one that, you know, obviously has changed and became plant-based in the last few years. And they offer like refined luxury, but vegan. That is very rare still. You still don't see that very often. So I think that's kind of like, I'm not in that realm of luxury. I feel like the kind of food that I do portrays this kind of elegance, but yet it is very approachable and homey and cozy. And that's exactly what I want for people. I don't want people to be afraid of cooking. I want people to be like, oh, this looks so easy, I can do that.
I have to say, if that's the goal, you're doing an excellent job, at least aesthetically speaking, because that really, you know, even if you look at your social media and like your work, like that's very much your website, like it's very much what it feels like. It's elevated, elegant, like refined. So I think what's also interesting is like, for you, how did you kind of know that was the brand that you wanted to curate? Was it just because that's what felt most authentic to you?
It really was. Like, I feel like what I've created in the last few years feels completely authentic to who I am. I feel like I am very poetic. I love to romanticize my life in every way. Like I do. I'll go out and I'll be like, this is such a beautiful day. And I'll look at things and I'll look at the beauty of everything. Even though it might not be the most beautiful place that I am, that I'm in, I'll just kind of really appreciate it because I feel like, and I kept, you know, learning that throughout the years, and life is so fragile and tomorrow is never promised, and I just want to be grateful for every day. And if that means romanticizing my life and making beautiful moments out of every day, that's what I'll do.
Very main character.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, everybody should be the main character of their own story.
It's true. My girlfriend speaks about this a lot. She's very much that should be the director, writer, producer.
I agree, because that's what you have to do. You are you, and you might not be there tomorrow, and it is so important to live every day like to your fullest, honestly.
When do you feel, was there a moment that you felt like you, as maybe a professional, but also as a person, kind of came into your own and felt like you were really doing and being who you wanted to be?
I feel like every stage of my life in the last 10 years, and since I've actually, for my whole entire life, like I'm constantly evolving. I'm constantly growing. I'm learning so much about myself. And I think that's why we're on this earth. Like we're here to learn about ourselves, truly. Like if it's not to learn about others and like how you can live in this world by helping other people and not like coexisting with other people, like you're also learning about yourself.
What have you learned about yourself recently?
Honestly, so much. It's kind of crazy. Like I feel like I'm constantly learning that I'm changing, and that even if I think that I will be in one particular field, for example, like working field or career in my life, like I see myself evolving all the time. Okay, I was a photographer, still am. I still have everything that I've learned in the last 10 years. It's still in me. But I was doing that solely for 8 years or more. And now I get to be in front of the camera. I am a author. I'm a cook. I am also a producer. I get to be on podcasts. Like there's so much to do. And I think that having such a wide range of different like jobs basically is so much fun. I feel like, when our parents had their jobs 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was more like accepted to have one job and to be there for a very, very long time, which is amazing. Why not? People can still do that today. You do you. But I think that being able to evolve and change jobs and do many things and wear many hats, like it's good for you. It's good for your brain. It like gets you to think outside the box. And to me, it just makes me feel really fulfilled to have all these different avenues that I love.
Which, is there an avenue right now that you prefer the most or that makes you the happiest?
The combination of everything is what makes me the happiest. I feel like I get to do all these amazing things and they all fulfill me. And they bring me so much joy, especially if it involves like being able to do it with my mom, which like my mom is not only my mom, she's like my business partner, she's my best friend, and I get to work with her almost every day. And to me, that is just such a gift, honestly. And, our parents are getting older and we just see the world like flashing by. Like I'm turning 30 in 2 days,
In 2 days?
Yeah, in 2 days.
Oh my goodness, happy early birthday.
Thank you. So it's crazy to feel like...
Are you afraid of turning 30?
Oh no, I'm so excited.
My girlfriend just turned 30. It's
94 babies.
Huh? 94.
94.
I see your birthday. Well, this will come out in a couple weeks, but what day are we?
We're May 28th.
So May 30th.
I'm May 30th.
What is that?
I'm turning 30 on May 30th.
Oh, that's special.
My golden birthday.
What are you doing to celebrate?
I don't know, actually. It's been kind of a weird year because a lot has happened, like a lot of tragedies around me. So I'm feeling like I just want to be really grateful for where I am and just to be with my family and to be able to just look back in these last 30 years of my life and just be super grateful. That's kind of what I want, and thankful to be around all the people that I love the most.
Is there a particularly transformative moment that you can look back in the last 30 years that you think changed the course of your life?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I had, someone very close to me just passed away. And that's okay. And that I think has like changed my life like forever. It obviously will and has, but that, and I had another friend that her sister passed away also last year. So, and in both like terrible tragedies. So that really puts a lot into perspective. I feel like when things like that happen in life, you just don't want to care about bullshit, you know? Like there's so much unnecessary drama in our world and a lot of like terrible things that happen, and we focus on such frivolous things because we are very privileged to be here, very grateful to be here, but we are very privileged in the world that we live in. And I feel like that just puts so much into perspective because we are, as I said, like tomorrow's never promised, and you know, we just need to live like we're the main character, like your girlfriend says. You know, we had got to be the producer and basically just the writer, and we have to really, really be also grateful for every day, and that just makes you think, honestly.
When it comes to these tragedies, and for anybody who's listening who may have, you know, may be or experience something of similar nature, what has been the best, the most comfort that you've found, or how have you found at least comfort in dealing with that grief?
I'm not quite sure because I feel like I'm really in it right now. But strangely, I feel like I've gotten even closer with my family. And it's really brought us closer. And I feel like in these moments, having family and your really true friends around you is so important. And it kind of shows you people's true colors as well, like who is there, who won't be there, or who will not be there, or who just didn't show up. And that's kind of what I'm learning right now, and also just learning who your true people are. That's really important.
How do you practice the kind of gratitude that you're talking about? Like, what does that look like for you?
Just being able to show up for the people around you, for those people to show up for you. Obviously, meditation, taking care of yourself, self-care is super important, but also just caring for others and checking in with people. I think people forget to check in, you know. I know that our world is so fast and there's so much going on around us all the time, but checking in with like a friend, like that's just like, you know, you never know really what people are really going through. And that's, I think the lesson is that you can criticize someone you see on social media. You can see someone on the street and be like, oh, they're acting so stupid, or just like seeing something for a second, 5 seconds, a minute, but you never know what someone is going through behind the scenes. So just give people grace.
As someone who's also on social media, do you, and you know, there's the good and the bad, how do you filter out some of the negative when it comes up? Does it bother you, or would you say it's also, it doesn't matter because it's overwhelmingly positive?
I'm very lucky that I have way more positive than negative. Thank God. I don't think I could do this job if I had a lot of negative. But there are obviously negative comments and messages, and it's hard to be able to speak up for everybody and be there for everybody. And I think that makes a lot of people angry. And also, like, you know, people will find you cringy. They won't like you. They'll make a judgment about you very easily, or, you know, from what they see. And to those people, I'm always like, you know, whatever you're going through, that's on you. But I am sending you love. That's the only thing I can do, you know? Like, I just want to create this space of positivity. And if people come to my Instagram, my page, my TikTok, whatever I'm showing them, it's because I want to create this space of beauty and of tranquility and calm. Like, this is why you're coming to see what I'm creating. And if that's what you get from what I'm showing you, amazing. Then my job is complete. But I just don't like when I see people judging someone from a photo that they see or just a moment, you know. We're all trying to thread these lines that our world is, you know, we're trying to just make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Right.
And it's always hard because people are just watching and they just want to see you fall. And that's kind of sad, but I try to really focus on the positive, honestly.
On a separate note, are you, if I'm allowed to ask this, are you romantically involved with anybody?
Yes. I've been with my partner for 4 years.
Wow. And Canadian?
He's French Canadian.
Okay. Do you speak in French or English?
We speak both. We speak franglais.
Okay. When you're upset with him, do you speak in French or English?
Probably French, actually.
Okay. Good, as it should be. Did you guys meet back in?
So funny enough, he's going to laugh at this, but we've actually known each other since we were 5 years old.
Wait, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's really
Were you
like...
guys friends when you were 5?
Well, I wouldn't say that we were friends, no.
He was in love with you and you weren't?
Kind
feeling
of,
it?
yeah, pretty much.
Classic.
He always says that I was like 10 going on 16 and he was 10 going on 5.
That's hilarious.
So we've known each other forever. We went to the same elementary school. We
so
were
adorable.
neighbors as well when we were growing up. And I moved to New York, so like I would have never thought anything. And he stayed in Montreal. We're in completely different fields.
What's he in?
He's in finance.
Okay.
So very different. Thank God for him though, because he does all my taxes and
That's
stuff.
good. You need a free
Absolutely.
accountant.
Exactly.
We all do.
But yeah, so we basically kind of reconnected when I went back to Montreal in 2020 during the pandemic. I hadn't been there like for basically like from January to June. So for 6 months, I was stuck in my 300 square feet apartment in New York City on the Upper West Side, kind of fearful for my life. But then when I went to Montreal for 5 weeks, the restrictions were not as bad there back then. And we kind of basically, what happened is that I went on Hinge and I was like, okay, let me see
What the options are.
what the
looking like in
options
the
are
area.
around the area.
Lo and behold, 20 years
Exactly.
later, he was finally matured.
Well, I was like, oh, I know this kid, you know?
Oh.
And I was like, okay, he probably still looks like a kid because like,
What does his photo look like though?
yeah, I don't know, like you can't really tell, you know? Sometimes you're like, this is way too
Hold
far.
on, before you finish this. So when you guys only knew each other when you were like super, super young?
Well, we had each other on Facebook. He was following me on Instagram.
Oh yeah, and definitely didn't follow back. So, there was like no communication though for like when you're young to now. Up until this
Basically,
point.
no.
Okay.
Like, I think we saw each other in a bar like in 2018 and like I like didn't really look at him. But
Okay, so continue.
yeah.
So now you're like, okay, you kind of glowed up.
So then I'm like, okay, well, the fact that I know this kid, I know how he grew up. I know he's like a like safe boy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know he's not like partying and like gonna give me COVID basically. So I was like, okay, I could probably just like meet up with him, you know? I was like, okay, he looks kind of cute. But then I see him in the street because obviously we met up in like a public setting. Because all the bars and restaurants were closed. I was like, oh, he does not look like a kid anymore. And I was like, fell in love like pretty much like right away.
Wait, love this. Okay. So then where was your first date? Like outdoors, standing
It was
10 feet apart?
kind of. Well, we like were standing kind of apart, but we went to like a park not too far from where we met. And we're just like kind of like, yeah.
And then you scooted over closer and closer, and
As the night went on,
yeah, I feel
exactly.
like that always
Yeah.
happens. So then wait, so then he's still living in Montreal,
Yes.
but then he was so in love that he moved to New York.
Well, literally after like the 5 weeks we spent together, he was like, so what's going to happen? And I was like, well, I'm going back to New York. Like, he's like, well, can I come next weekend?
That's so cute.
And
Only hour flight.
yeah, but then back then, like the borders were closed.
Oh, I forgot about that.
And I was like, okay, so we just made it work. And then further on, like we made it work. Like he was able to get a job here pretty fast, and yeah, the rest is history.
4 years.
4 years.
And you guys, well, I'm curious too, like, how do you manage the public side when it comes to the relationship?
That's a good question.
Was it a strategic planning?
Well, he is in some content, but I always give him the option. Like, I know that he's not, like, I mean, his account is private. He has like 500 followers. Like, he's not someone who is very public. And that's like what made me fall in love with him as well. Like, I just love that he's very private, and he really, that's very important to him. But he also knows that I love what I do, and I love showing that I am in love with him. And so he's like, whatever makes you happy, that I'll do it. And it makes him happy too. So he's very supportive.
How do you guys, if I may ask, like, talk about your future and, did you guys have that conversation early on in terms of like what you wanted your future to look like, both individually and as a unit? I'm curious for other couples what it looks like.
Well, when we connected in 2020, I was still a full-time photographer. I was not really, I had maybe like 40,000 followers on social, and I was doing mostly my work as a photographer. But then like slowly, because it was COVID, and that's kind of how I transitioned, I was showing more of myself because I couldn't be on set on any photo shoot sets because I couldn't be with like my producer, I couldn't be with my food stylist, I couldn't be with anybody. So I was like, okay, well, I'll turn to social media and create videos. And that was the summer that Reels came out. And I posted a Reel every day for like probably like 2 years. And that's when I just like blew up. And like, so in 4 years, I basically gained like 1.2 million followers. And yeah, that was just kind of incredible. And that is what changed my career. And he was really part of that. He saw the evolution. He saw me, really kind of being a photographer to like being like a personality on social media. And he was very supportive through that. Obviously, it's hard when like you're dating someone who is so public, but I still feel like I keep my life pretty private. I don't talk too much about my life in general. Like, I'll show what I love and I'll bring people into that aspect, but I won't really like say like everything about what's going on,
Are you guys, is he also 30?
Yeah, we're actually 2 weeks apart. He's turning
2 weeks apart.
30 on June 15th. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So we're both Geminis. Watch out.
Oh, that's dangerous.
It's very.
That's not toxic at home?
No.
Gemini,
I think that's
Gemini?
That's what I heard, is that 2 people who are Geminis in love are like soulmates for life.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, look, we'll see.
What are your views on marriage?
I would love to get married. I'm just waiting. He knows.
Damn.
Hello.
Well, I hope he's watching and gets to this part.
Oh, he definitely knows. He knows, but
you think he's plotting?
I don't know. You gotta ask him, right?
We're gonna do a little double date. I'll find out real quick.
I know.
Does he speak French? Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, but you speak French too, so I can't even like use it as a secret language.
No.
I'll just pull him aside. All good. I'll figure it out.
But I don't know. We'll see. I'm very low key, so I feel like I would love something very intimate. And he would too. So it would be like a small thing.
Is he also a vegan?
He is not. We have like a rule that like at home, he's vegan.
Oh.
Like our whole fridge, everything, our pantry is vegan.
Did you make that rule?
I mean, like it was like an unsaid rule, honestly.
Interesting.
And like he just kind of like followed, and he really respects that, and he actually loves eating vegan.
Well, because I'm sure what you're cooking is delicious.
Well,
so it's
yeah. So I feel like he can't really complain,
Yeah, it's true. Like literally, think about it. He's probably got like the best vegan chef. Like, what are you gonna complain about?
He gets to test everything I make, so he's like very lucky, I would say.
God bless. So wrap things up. What do you hope life looks like on both the personal and professional level in the next 5 or when you turn 40?
My best friend just turned 40 last weekend.
God bless.
And honestly, seeing her turn 40, I'm like, she looks amazing. She's living her best life. I'm like, 40 looks like another amazing decade. Like, I just can't wait for 30. I feel like in my mind, I've been 30 for like already 5 years. So
don't worry, in 48 hours, you'll find out.
I know, right? But to me, I'm just honestly, from what this whole year has brought, from all these things that I have experienced, from all these different perspectives that I have gained from everything that happened, I just feel like, and I know this sounds really, really cliche because it is, but every day is a blessing. It really is. And like, stop worrying about stupid shit.
I know. I tell people this all the time too. And you're probably even a better person to speak on it because of the unfortunate tragedies. But I agree. It's like, people are so worried about their coffee spilling on their shoes. Like, yeah, it sucks. But like, there's,
or like, honestly, this is going to resonate with a lot of people. I know that people care about how many likes they get on a post, their engagement. Oh my God, I'm worried. I like this did not do well. Delete, things like that. I have been that person too. Seriously, like, I know it's so important. This is our job. We love what we do, but let's focus on the important things, the connections that you make through like social media, the job that you love, like going to work and meeting your coworkers every day. We don't like, there's so many beautiful things within the things that we complain about that we need to like rewire our brains to be like, wow, actually, you know what? Today is a gorgeous day. Yeah, my coffee spilled all over my suit, all over my shoes, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. Yep. Like, we are here, we are healthy, we are safe. It's like the minimum. And that's like kind of like what we have to just keep thinking about. It's like just the things that we love, and that we love people and they love us back. And like, life is more simple than we actually think it is.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time.
Of course.
Thank you for coming on. Where, for this next book, where do people pre-order? Where do they find all of these exciting ventures?
So for my upcoming book, The Artful Way to Plant-Based Cooking, you can buy it, of course, on Amazon, but anywhere where they sell books, it's available for pre-order right now. So please go pre-order your copy. That will really, really help. Pre-orders actually really help authors. They mean a lot to us. They are there to like change our numbers. They're there to like, expand basically the way that we get to promote our book.
Right.
So pre-orders are really, really important. So if you can buy it on pre-order, please do. But yeah, it's coming out September 24th and it will be everywhere where you can buy books.
Amazing. Thank you, Chloe.
Thank you so much.